Lucky Cole, a genuine Florida character who appeared in Tim Dorsey's Electric Barracuda. Tell me, how did Tim Dorsey find out all about you?
Well, let me see. Obviously, Tim had researched me on the internet, which is really hard to do. Just look up Lucky Cole Loop Road. And he told me he came down the road several times, the gates were closed. He went over to Everglades City where he's doing research for the book, Electric Barracuda, and made his way down to Lebo's Rock Bottom Bar. At Lebo's, we have some of our work up on the beams. Above everybody's head, these beams, you have the photographs up, something like I have up here behind me. And he saw those photographs. He's there having a beer. Later in the day, he was down at Billy's Seafood Depot there in Everglades City. Billy is the owner, obviously, Billy Potter. He got to talking to Billy Potter, and he's telling Billy about the book he was working on. He's a writer, telling him the whole story. Said he was interested in meeting this photographer who lived on Loop Road named Lucky Cole, and wanted to know if this guy was approachable. Well, once Billy finished laughing, after Tim said that, after he finished laughing, he told Tim, he said, well, Lucky's the most approachable person in the Everglades. So Tim got Billy to call me, and Billy's funny on the phone. He calls me and he says, Lucky, he says, listen, he says, this writer guy's here. He seems to be somebody who writes books and novels. He seems to be legit. He seems to be on the up and up. And he wanted me to call you to see if he could talk to you. He wanted to interview you because he wants to put you in the book. And of course I said, put him on the phone. So Tim got on the phone. We talked for a few minutes. We made an appointment. I guess it was the next day. He came out here. He said he would only take up about an hour or so of my time. And we set up on the deck here behind me. And Tim and I sat here, I think we talked probably for at least 4 hours, without exaggerating. If you talk to Tim Dorsey, he might tell you it's a little longer or a little shorter. I'm not sure. And of course, I told him stories about the Everglades and Loop Road and Gator Hook Lodge and the other places and going-ons out here for the last 40 years that I know of. And let me think. Now, he told me in the beginning that I was just going to have some little small part in the book, and he started off, first off, he started recording me. No, I'm sorry. Let me regress a little bit. He started off making notes. Okay, well, whoa, wait a minute. He said, I got a recorder here. Do you mind if I record you? I said, absolutely not. I said, you need, this should be recorded. So he started recording. Well, about halfway through that, he stop. Let me go out to my car. I got to get my video camera. I'd like to video some of this for my publisher. Mm-hmm. Yes, go get it. You know how shy I am around cameras. Okay. So anyway, he went and got his video. Now he's making notes. He's recording me and videotaping me all at the same time. And I would like to think that's because he didn't want to take a chance on missing anything. Not that I couldn't have repeated it. So we went on and on and on. 3-4 hours went by. And it was really great. And then he tells me, he says, now listen, he says, it's going to be a small part in the book. He said, and what I will do is when I write about you, I'll change your name. What? They won't change your name. I said, if you don't put my name in Lucky Cole's, don't even bother. I mean, you're wasting my time. And so he starts to explain a little to me about the book. He agreed with that, by the way. He agrees. Okay, great, but I need a video release. Give him the video release, which later on he had to mail me because his publisher is still worried about it. Signed release that I had to have notarized because he's actually using my real name, Lucky Cole, which I had no problem with that. But then he starts telling me a little bit about the plot of the book. Okay, he wanted to give me a little bit, told me not to talk about it or tell anybody until after the book came out, for obvious reasons. But since the book has already been out for almost a year, I guess it's okay for me to talk about it, right? Well, he explained to me about his character, Serge. I hadn't read any of his books up to that point, so I didn't know a lot about it. And how he travels through Florida, and he's a lovable bad guy that kills bad guys that really needs killing. And he told me how he wanted to wind up out here and so forth, and I was going to be photographing this woman who had been like his wife or romantically involved and so forth. And I asked him, I said, well, she's pretty. He goes, what? I said, well, Tim, I said, is she pretty? And he said, well, I'm kind of writing the character in. He says, yeah. He says, yeah, I guess she's pretty. And I paused for a little bit, and I said, Tim, I said, yeah, she a redhead? I said, I'm really partial to redheads. I really like redheads. If I'm going to be photographing or everything, I said, I want to be a redhead. And he said, well, I hadn't really thought about that. He's still thinking on that and trying to decide. And I said, well, if she's pretty and she's a redhead, I expect her to have personality. I mean, she got to have personality too. Yeah. But Lucky, you're married. I said, Tim, it's fiction. It's not real. I said, speaking of that, I said, I get to have sex with her. I said, if she's pretty and she's redhead with personality, I want to have sex with her. He said, you're married. I said, Tim, it's fiction. It's not real. Okay? It's all make-believe. He said, what about your wife? I said, don't worry about Maureen. I said, she's going to love it. So anyway, we carried on. Of course, we were both laughing ourselves to death throughout the interview, having a great time. After he finally left, we went down to check out Gator Hook so he could actually see where it was at. And he called me a couple of times after that. He mailed me the other papers that he needed me to sign and have notarized. He kept in touch with me on emails and things, bringing me up to speed on what was going on, what was happening. Later on in there, he had to call me and tell me, it's Lucky. He says, your character seems to keep growing in my book. He says, you keep getting bigger and bigger. I thought, well, that's great, Tim. One of the other things I put in about you, because of all of this other stuff, and I wrote about your photography and the women, where you photograph the women and the things that you do, is I put you in as this supremo beekeeper in the Everglades, that you keep bees and you make the best honey. And I chuckled, and I said, well, so any of my friends that know me, that read that, are going to just assume that what you didn't want to say was that I made the best moonshine in the Everglades, and you just didn't want to put that in the book. And then again, I think he actually laughed and thought, well, he could have just put me in as a moonshiner as well, because I wouldn't have cared. And I said, Tim, it's all fiction. But anyway, I think that's about wrapped up the whole thing, and he and I are, of course, still staying in touch and cutting up and going back and forth on me and Molly and Mikey, who is my illegitimate child. But wait a minute. I'm not going to give you any more because you need to read the book. Buy the book, read the book, and then look me up on the internet.
All right. Well, thank you, and that concludes our interview with Lucky Cole, who is definitely not a moonshiner in the Everglades.
Everybody's going to believe that.